Welcome back to Shy Travels. In this one, I'm going to interrupt our regular programming of caravanning camping in Victoria, and we are going to head to the beautiful island of Santorini in Greece. Now, there might be a few of you out there planning your amazing European summer holiday to escape the Australian winter, or maybe you're over in the UK looking to escape for a weekend. I'm going to take you through the trip that we did over 2 days to Santorini, and we took our kids with us. Now, if you were to Google the top 10 family-friendly islands in Greece, I don't think Santorini would even make the top 10. For us, it was a case of I had wanted to go there for my 30th birthday when it was just Tom and I. However, the pandemic hit. So 4 years later, we were like, let's just go. But we had 2 kids in tow. So how would this play out? What would it be like? Would we regret it? But it was like, we're going to be in the UK then. We're going to be there for my birthday. Why not just head over to Santorini for a couple of days? In this one, I'm going to take you through the amazing place that we stayed at, where we went for dinner, all those sorts of things, where we flew from. And then at the end of the video, I'll take you through how we booked it, how we planned it all, what we specifically took for our kids to keep them entertained on the flight, what we took in terms of baby items, bottles, all those sorts of things. I'll take you through that at the end. We went to Santorini at the end of June. This is just getting into the absolute peak time. We knew it was going to be really busy then. We just decided that we were just going to cop it. When we booked our accommodation, we were very strategic in that we booked to stay in the heart of Oia, which is absolute tourist hotspot. We thought if we stayed there, we don't need to worry about getting around by bus or taxi or anything like that. Everything will be within walking distance. Because we're taking our 2 kids with us, they were aged 3 years, and then we had a 3-month-old as well. We just planned to pretty much stay in our accommodation or not walk very far. We knew it was going to be very hot and very busy. Okay, let's hit the road. So we drove from my parents' house to London Gatwick Airport, which was around about 3 hours away. Because it was so far away, we decided to stay overnight the night before our flight because it was quite an early flight in the morning. This turned out to be a complete waste of time and money because when we got to the airport, on time, checked in and everything, they said your flight's been delayed by 3 hours. This was really frustrating. We stayed at the Premier Inn, which was next door to Gatwick Airport, and it was about $250 for one night, and that was just literally for a bed. That was it. We also paid for parking at the North Terminal in Gatwick, which is the closest one to getting to the North Terminal. You can find cheaper parking if you stay in the long-term parking. So that was around $100 for 2 nights of parking there. We could have just driven there from my parents' house in the morning, but we had no way of knowing that. We were in Gatwick Airport for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, trying to keep the kids entertained. We bought a lot of activities and things for them just to try and keep them busy. We got on the plane, put our seatbelts on, ready to go, and they said that we were going to be delayed by at least another hour. And it's a no-frills airline, so there's no in-seat entertainment, there's no food, there's no drink, there's nothing. So trying to keep 2 little kids entertained was very difficult. We were also the only people on the plane of around 200 people who had children with us. So we did our best to keep them entertained. We brought an iPad with us and loads of snacks, all those sorts of things. Eventually we did get into the air, and when we did, it was smooth sailing. We were over in Europe when they had lots of really bad storms around their summer, and it delayed loads of flights. That entire trip we did, we had 6 flights in total, and of those 5 were delayed. It just became a bit of a theme with our trip. Anyway, 4 hours later, we made it to Santorini. We hop off the plane, and our accommodation has arranged our airport transfers. So there's someone stood there with a sign with our name on it. They took all our bags for us, put us into the car. Really nice new modern car. We had the aircon absolutely cranked. It was so hot. It took around 20 minutes to get into Oia, and the cost was about 30 euros. We couldn't get quite down to our accommodation though in the car. Obviously, if you've been to Santorini, you'll know why. It's very much pedestrianized, very small alleyways, streets, steps everywhere. So the car parked as close as they could. We then met our host. She introduced herself, and she had a couple of guys with her, and she said they'll carry our bags for us. Now at first we were a bit like, oh, don't worry about it, we'll be able to manage. There is no way we would have been able to manage. So the steps down to our accommodation are the very famous Instagram steps that lead down to the 2 blue domes. And these steps are uneven, like most of the streets in Santorini, because there is so much foot traffic. They are worn completely smooth to the point that they are slippery. There's not much to hold on to. We had 2 little kids with us that we were carrying, and if they hadn't carried our bags down for us, I don't really know what we would have done. The other thing that we had to navigate as well was because it is such a famous photo spot, there were lines of tourists waiting to get down the steps to take their picture. I had been a little bit apprehensive about booking this accommodation because people had said it's a little bit awkward getting down there with all the people waiting to take pictures and things like that. We actually didn't have any issues at all. We just waited for people to take their pictures. Once they're done, we'd then say, sorry, we just got to quickly sneak down to our accommodation, go down as fast as we could, which was quite difficult. We made our way down to our accommodation and then our host gave us a tour and it was amazing. So we stayed in Cave Suite Oia, and inside it had a small kitchenette which had toaster, sandwich press, coffee pod machine, kettle, sink, fridge, and I think that was about it, and then like cutlery, crockery. It then had a very small dining table, a seating area, like a lounge corner seating area with a coffee table and a TV. And then it's all quite open plan. So next to that was where the main bed was, queen size bed. And then just further along from that, deeper into the cave is where the bathroom was. And the bathroom was huge. It had a swimming pool sized bath in it. This bath was absolutely gigantic. It had like a shower at one end that you could almost slide down into the bath into it. If you wanted to fill up this bath, you would have been there for hours. The kids loved it though. We basically filled it up like a small swimming pool for them. They could just splash around in it. The bathroom itself had robes. It had all sorts of toiletries in there that we could use. I think it had a hairdryer as well. Our host then gave us all her details on WhatsApp, and we used this to organise our airport transfers when we left, but we also used this to organise our breakfast each morning. So breakfast was included, a cooked breakfast. They sent us the menu, we picked what we wanted, and then they would deliver it to our door, and this was really convenient. Our host then took us to the outside area, which is really the selling point of Cave Suite Oia. So on the bottom level, there's a inbuilt seating area with an umbrella, and then you go up some steps, and just over kind of where the front door is to get into the accommodation is a little plunge infinity pool. And it looks over the two blue domes and then out onto the ocean. You can see the cruise ships coming and going. It was amazing. There's also a small day bed there. And compared to the accommodation that I'd seen online and the accommodation that I could just see from our pool where we were, our outdoor area was huge compared to everyone else's. Compared to other pools that I'd seen online, this one was big. You could actually stretch out in it. It had a seating area in it. You press a button and some bubbles come on. Other accommodation that I had seen in the area, their plunge pools were quite literally that. You could kind of plunge yourself in and that was it. Some of them were positioned in quite awkward spots, kind of round corners, and they'd done very clever photography to make it look like you could see the sunset or the domes when really you couldn't. It always pays to read reviews and see how clever the photography has been. This one, however, Cave Suite Oia, it is exactly what you see. You sit there and you are in between the blue domes in your pool. It was amazing. Now, in saying that, it was very expensive. It was $1,000 per night. Hence why we only went 2 nights. It was just one of those things we were like, if we're going to do it once, let's just do it right. We'll stay in the best accommodation we can find and we'll stay right in the heart of tourist town. And I'm so glad we did. No regrets. It was amazing. Now, they gave us a complimentary bottle of wine when we arrived. We had a quick drink by the pool and then we headed straight out to dinner. Unfortunately, because our flight had been delayed by so long, when we got there wasn't much time to relax. It was just, right, we've got our dinner booking, we need to just get going. For our first night, we decided to have dinner at Pelekanos. This was literally a 2-minute walk from Cave Suite Oia. It was fantastic. I had booked this online about a month before we came because I wanted to make sure that we were seated right on the, balcony edge, so we had a really nice ocean view. It was also my birthday, so I thought, why not book something a little bit special for that night? Some restaurants there you can book online. For Pelekanos, I just emailed them, and I think I did have to give our credit card details just to pay a deposit. Most restaurants there will only hold your table for 15 minutes, and every restaurant that we went to, and we only really went to 2, but they were absolutely jam-packed. Now, I was very apprehensive about bringing our kids to a restaurant in Santorini. Santorini has a reputation, I think, for being like a honeymoon couple destination, quite high end. However, when we got there, the staff were brilliant. No one else in the restaurant seemed to really care that we had kids there. They also offered us a high chair. They were really accommodating and really welcoming. The food was fantastic, the view was beautiful, we had some lovely drinks. We also were really surprised about how humid it was. We had expected it to be quite a dry heat, but it was incredibly humid, which actually wasn't too bad of a thing because it made for a really nice sunset. It was very orange and bright. It was wonderful. A really good spot to have dinner, have some drinks, and watch the sun go down. A lot of the restaurants there you can only book for 2-hour slots. I think we had booked the 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. slot. I think at that time of year, end of June, that the sun was setting at around 8 o'clock. So 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock is the ideal time to book dinner. After dinner, we just went back to our accommodation. Well, our accommodation, as I said, it had one main bed. For our 3-year-old, what they did was set up a little bed on the sofa area. So it's pretty much just a mattress that they've got there and a few pillows and a blanket. It wasn't too high up off the ground, but we still got a couple of the dining chairs and just put them next to the sofa so she couldn't roll out at night. For our 3-month-old, they provided a travel cot and it had a really good mattress. Anyone out there who's ever used travel cots before will know that the mattress in it is usually the part which wraps around it to make it into a bag. But no, I was very impressed that they had a really nice thick mattress for us. We then went up and spent the rest of the evening relaxing in the pool. And the good thing was that our monitor and baby camera could still talk to each other. We weren't too far away. So we could relax in the pool with a glass of wine and just keep an eye on the chaos downstairs. Now, Santorini at night is absolutely beautiful. All the buildings, the white buildings, light up. You can see pools reflecting off them. While we were sat in the pool, there was also fireworks going off in the distance. It was really nice. We were a little bit worried as well with our accommodation. Would we be overlooked by other accommodation? Because if you've been to places like Santorini, you'll know it's a little bit chaotic how accommodation is laid out. I would hate to be a town planner there in terms of boundaries and joint walls, common walls, things like that. It is a bit chaotic. However, we found that just above our accommodation, there might have been a restaurant or something, but it was quite far back, so we could kind of hear people, but we couldn't see people. We had some neighbors over to the left, but most people, they're not looking back at you. They're looking out over the blue domes, they're looking at the ocean. So we didn't find we were overlooked or anything. We didn't find that, we were too close to other people as well. Because that's the other thing, the walls and things between accommodation is very low. You can kind of see straight in. It was very quiet as well, really lovely and relaxing. Because we were only there for 2 days, I had made us a bit of an itinerary as to what we were going to do for those couple of days. Now, I knew that if we got up early and went for a walk around Oia town, it would be much quieter than any other time during the day. Our breakfast got delivered, we ate that quickly, and then we went to do a few photos. Now, it sounds really obvious, and when I watched people's videos of going Santorini before we came there, everyone was like, get up early and take photos. And so I thought maybe there'd be lots of other people around, and there just weren't. The streets were so quiet. We went to all the popular spots to get some pictures. We went to some places where there's nicely colored doors. There's the beautiful pink and purple flowers that grow above the doors. We then walked down to where there's another blue dome. Now, if you were to try and get these photos in the middle of the day or near sunset, you would have hundreds of people in these pictures. Get there early in the morning, stay in Oia so that you can quickly get out, get these pictures. We then walked down to Kastros Restaurant, and that's actually where we were going to go for dinner that night. You recognize this as a very famous Instagram spot. The beautiful terracotta colored walls, the light blue door here. We got a few pictures. Now, I just used my camera phone and I bought a small tripod so that we could get a few family pictures. And there were a few other people around who offered to take pictures for us, which was really nice. After about an hour, it was starting to get quite humid and hot, so we decided to head back to our accommodation, and we just spent the morning in the pool watching all the cruise ships come in. Now, one thing we did to try and save a little bit of money, and let's face it, this trip wasn't a cost-saving exercise, is we self-catered for lunch. There are a couple of small supermarkets or kind of corner shops that weren't too far from our accommodation. And so we went up there, we just got things like milk, bread, cheese, just stuff to make sandwiches with. And that was what we did for lunch. After lunch, we decided to have a little bit of an explore, not going too far because it was the middle of the day. This is when the streets are extremely busy. We went up to look at one of the churches, and it's got a big square in front of it. So we had a bit of a look at that. We bought a couple of souvenirs, and then we went to find some gelato. We got our gelato, and then we walked to just a random square behind some of the buildings, found a bench in the shade, and just people watched. This was a point where the tall buses that came up from the cruise ships would turn around and drop people off, and we couldn't quite believe the amount of people that were coming in. It was just group after group, all with their different coloured stickers and their person at the front with their little sign or flag. Once we finished our ice cream, we wandered back to our accommodation and spent the afternoon relaxing in the pool. That evening, we were going out for dinner again, and we were heading to Kastros Restaurant. I had booked this well in advance. The reason why I'd done that was because you can book online and you can choose whether you sit in what they call the first line or the second line. First line, you are right on the edge of like the balcony area for the better view. Second line, you are in the second row of tables back, so you're not right on the edge. You've got people between you and the view. I had to pay a deposit, which might have been 50 euros or something. Again, this is one of those places, if you don't show up within 15 minutes of your booking time, they will give your table away. Kastros is an extremely popular spot. It is right next to the castle ruins, which is where absolutely everyone goes to get their beautiful picture of the sun setting behind Santorini. It's where you've got the windmills, you can see all the boats down on the water. It's an extremely popular spot, so book it as far in advance as you can. Now again, we were a little bit apprehensive going to somewhere like this with kids. However, there were some other families there with young children, so we felt quite comfortable. Now, while we were there to enjoy the sunset and the views, Tom and I, our 3-year-old just wasn't really that interested. And so we did something which we don't usually do, and we set her up with her iPad and some headphones, and she just sat and watched Frozen. Judge us if you will, we don't normally do this. I think that was actually the first time we had ever done that, and we haven't done it since. And yeah, she sat there, sat quietly, watched her movie, and had a great time. The 3-month-old just slept or sat in our arms. And Tom and I had a few moments to ourselves to enjoy a couple of nice drinks, have a conversation, just relax and enjoy the moment. Now, Tom and I aren't foodies, but we both thought the food was really good. We also enjoyed a couple of cocktails. Now, they had lots of cats there that were roaming around between diners trying to score themselves a bit of free dinner, which was some entertainment for the kids. We made the booking again, which was 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. because the sun sets at 8 o'clock. You get to see the sun setting, beautiful moment. It was one of those times where everyone clapped when the sun set and the boats that were down on the water all like tooted their horns. It was a little bit cringe, but you can see why it is incredibly beautiful. And once the sun had set, the crowds dispersed really quickly. If you want to get some nice pictures with that, not quite sunset, just after, head to the castle then because the crowds were almost gone. Once the sun set and it started getting dark, again, it just looks so beautiful. Now, Pelekanos and Kastros were both fairly expensive to eat at. I think both nights our meals would have come to about 200 euros. Now, that's about $400 and does sound very expensive. However, we were at a couple of the most popular restaurants in the heart of tourist town on one of the most expensive islands in Greece. And so we just thought, that's fine, we'll just cop it on the chin. You only live once, we might not be coming back here again. Let's just eat and drink whatever we want. Now, we did get quite a few cocktails, that's probably why our bill was so expensive. Once we finished dinner, we headed back to our accommodation, and the streets of Santorini are alive at night. All the shops are open, really good vibe. Everyone's trying to sell you all their wares and souvenirs. We put the kids to bed and then again just relaxed in our beautiful plunge pool. Next morning we woke up and again we went and took some pictures. The day before, when we were out getting gelato, we had a bit of a scout around of places that we might want to go to get some pictures. My goal for that day was to seek out brightly coloured doors and get lots of pictures in front of them. So again, we left early after we had our breakfast delivered. It would have been about 7:30 that we went out and walked through some of the streets. We went up to near where the church was that we had been to the day before, and we found a back alley that looped all the way around back to kind of the main street that runs through Oia. We found some beautiful coloured doors, some of those lovely pink trees. Got lots of pictures. There's almost no one around then, so you don't feel too cringe getting these pictures. And let's face it, most people are there doing the same thing anyway. Once we got our pictures in front of the beautiful doors, we went up to the castle to get a few pictures. Now, obviously it is extremely beautiful at sunset, that's why everyone goes there, but even early in the morning, it still was very pretty. The light was nice, there was hardly anyone there. You can see the windmill and all the beautiful coloured buildings and domes lit up in that morning sun. It's a very beautiful spot. So after about an hour of taking pictures, we headed back to our accommodation. We had one last swim in the pool, and then our host texted us to say that the car was there waiting for us to take us to the airport. Once again, they had a couple of guys there to carry our 2 suitcases up the steps, which was invaluable. We hopped in the car, went to the airport. As we were waiting in the line to drop our bags and check in, they then said, who's going to Gatwick? They made a big fuss. They got us through really quickly, dropped our bags, and we thought, what on earth is going on? Are we late for some reason? Got us down to the gate and then said, oh, your plane's been delayed by an hour. So that was a little bit confusing. Once we were up in the air though, it was smooth sailing. We landed back in Gatwick, no problem, picked up the car and then drove home. Now, would we recommend going to Santorini with kids? Absolutely, we would. Everywhere we went was very accommodating with children. As I said, we went to some of the busiest, most popular restaurants, and they had high chairs, they were really welcoming. The accommodation that we stayed at, which was really geared towards couples, honeymooners, had a travel cart, no issues with kids staying there. It was absolutely fine. I'll now talk you through how we planned it, what we took specifically for our kids, how we navigated things like bottles, all those sorts of things. In terms of planning and booking the trip, I did this all myself. I don't use travel agents. The couple of times I have used them, they've stuffed up our flights, or I've pretty much had to sit there with them and kind of do their job for them. I just find them, to be honest, to be a bit of a waste of time. I do all the research myself. So with accommodation, I knew that we wanted to stay in the heart of Oia, where we could easily walk to all the sites that we wanted to see and restaurants that we wanted to go to. A lot of people, when they go to Santorini, they ask the question, should I stay in Fira or Oia? For us, we wanted to stay in Oia because it just had a few more of those nice sites that we wanted to see. In terms of the type of accommodation I wanted to book, Santorini is not famous for its beaches. I knew it would be hot, and so I thought, let's get someone with a pool because that's a place where we can just sit and hang out with the kids. They'd love it, they'd really enjoy it. Some of the places that I looked at, the pools were very small, as I said. A lot of the hotels there that you'll find are adults only. The hotels that were quite cheap and that were a bit more family friendly were quite far out, and so I knew we'd either have to hire a car or catch a bus when we wanted to go places, and it just wasn't going to work for us given we were only there for 2 days. I booked our accommodation through booking.com. I have absolutely no affiliation or, to be honest, any sort of loyalty to them. You could book directly with the hotel. However, I think I was a little bit concerned about what currency it would be in and getting charged all sorts of fees, so I just went with booking.com. Again, with flights, I just booked these myself. We went with easyjet. It was $1,700. That was for 2 adults, 1 child, 1 infant, and 2 checked bags. And we flew from London Gatwick Airport. It would have been much more convenient to fly from Birmingham or Bristol. That's because they're much closer to my parents' house. However, at that time of year, they only had about 1 flight a week. Gatwick Airport offered daily flights out to Santorini and back, and so that was what was going to work for us. Now, with the price of the flights, with the infant, we only paid for taxes, so that's just something to keep in mind. Now, they do offer some child items that you can take on board for free. It might be a pram or travel cart, whatever it is. We knew that our accommodation was providing a travel cart, and we knew that a pram just would not work in Santorini. So if you are going there with young children, I would say do not bother taking a pram with you. Even the really small travel one that we had, which can fit into a backpack, we were like, there's just no point. The streets have got steps and it is extremely busy. I cannot emphasize how busy it is. Trying to navigate the streets with a pram would be extremely difficult. If you have a very young child, what we did was we took a carrier. That worked really well. One thing we did make sure that we took on the plane was a really well-stocked nappy bag. This was a really smart choice in the end to make sure that we had far more than we needed because we were delayed by almost 4 hours. In terms of taking nappies and formula bottles on the plane, I think we had a couple of bottles. We have our formula in Ziploc bags and then in Tupperware containers to try and keep it clean and sealed. In terms of washing bottles, things like that, we just asked the flight attendants to do it for us. They have got boiling water facilities where they'll quickly give everything a rinse and then give it back to us. The other thing we do is we used bottled cold water, and then we asked flight attendants to fill up a small thermos that we had with boiling water, and then we just mixed it together. We also did this on our flight over from Australia to the UK, which is about a 24-hour flight, and this worked perfectly. We had no issues. our little one didn't have any upset stomach or anything like that. It worked really well. In terms of nappies, I just go off the rule of, I imagine having to do a nappy change once every hour. Like that could be the absolute worst case scenario. In terms of what we took with us, the reason why we took 2 check bags for a 48-hour trip was that one of them was just basically full of like nappies and bottles, wipes, bibs, all that sort of baby gear was in one of the big bags. We just wanted to make sure we had more than necessary. We'd never been there before. We weren't sure what the supermarkets would have there, how far away they would be, what they would stock, and so having more than we needed worked well for us. In terms of sterilizing bottles, what I had was some sterilizer bags. What you do is you boil a kettle, pour the boiling water in, put all your stuff inside, and then seal it. And then the steam from there helps to sterilize everything. I would kind of fill up to the point where everything would be in the boiling water, give it a really good clean, and then it's got a little spout in the bag where you can tip all the boiling water out and then let everything dry. You can also, I think, fill them up with cold water and then put them in the microwave. And you can get about 20 uses out of each bag. So that was a really good option to have for traveling. Now, we didn't bring too many extra toys or anything for the kids to play with on this trip. We did bring a couple of pool toys, like a super soaker. We did bring things to make sure that they were entertained, mainly the 3-year-old. The 3-month-old just slept and ate. So to entertain the 3-year-old, I actually made a video a few months ago. It's just a 5-minute video on 5 things to bring to keep your child entertained at the airport or on a plane. So we had things like that little road map that you would have seen in one of the pictures. You could drive cars around. We got a drawing tablet, like an LCD drawing tablet. It saves bringing reams and reams of paper and pens. They can just draw on that, press a button, and the drawing disappears. We brought the iPad with us, and we have a Disney Plus subscription. And with that, you can download movies and watch them offline for a month. We do that all the time. It is fantastic. Anytime you're out of phone reception or if you're on a plane, just means that they can watch their favorite movies if the plane either doesn't have them, or like in our case, the plane didn't have any sort of in-flight entertainment. Now, the time of year we went at the end of June. July and August is school holidays time in Europe, and that would be the absolute peak time to go. It's also the hottest time, and I guess it's the best weather. Going in the shoulder season, you'll still get good weather and you'll have less crowds. So May, June, and then also September, October. Now Santorini in particular, and I think a few other islands in Greece, it gets really windy towards the end of the year. Something to bear in mind, personally, I would not travel there in the off season. In winter, I just don't think it would be a very good time. Now, I said before, we do highly recommend it. Would I go back again? Yes, I definitely would. There's plenty more of the island to explore. We barely scratched the surface. We'd like to explore Fira. Down the south, there's wineries and things that we didn't get to see. There's the west side of the island we didn't see any of either. And I'd like to go back when the kids are older and we can kind of enjoy it a bit more together as a family. I'll also be putting together a video at some point, probably towards the end of this year or next year, into planning a trip to Europe with kids, what to bring, what not to bring, where to go, best time of year, all those sorts of things. Next week, it will be back to our usual programming. We are going to be continuing traveling around Victoria and beyond with our car and caravan. If you've liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.